Hi, everyone. My name is Katka, Reszke, and I'm the director of the ReelAbililities Film Festival, which is presented by Boston Jewish Film. Tonight, we brought you Hearts of Glass, and I want to thank our community partners, the Arc of Massachusetts and the Cotting School, where the screening was originally going to take place. With me tonight, I have Hearts of Glass director and producer, award-winning filmmaker Jennifer Tennican, as well as Paul Chiozzi, the Cotting School's Advancement Office of the Cotting School Advancement Office, who is also the longtime liaison between our festival and the Cotting School.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Jennifer, I'm going to jump to you.
Jump to me. I'm ready to be jumped on.
Right,
go.
How did you first become interested in this story, and how did you navigate questions of representation? How did you and how you chose to tell this story?
I'm going to stop you there because it's already a 7-part question.
All right.
So Jackson Hole is a small community. It's about 10,000 people, and it's a small community and a connected community. So I actually knew two of the women who were behind the project initially, and then a third woman who you see in the film, Caroline Croft Este, sort of joined the two, and it was an 8-year process. So I was working on films while they were, and raising funds for my other films where they were raising funds for Vertical Harvest. So I knew what they were doing. I think I helped them on a Kickstarter campaign. They were incredibly dedicated. Because public money was involved, they had to go through a number of town council meetings and public hearings. And I just saw that the way that they embraced naysayers and people who were on the other side of the argument, like, why should we spend public money on something like this? And instead of running away from their perceived enemies, they kind of ran toward them, which is also handy. If you have a bazooka, you should run towards people with a bazooka, because then they can't fire it at you. But they ended up getting one of their major critics on their side, and who spoke very eloquently when they went for State of Wyoming Business Council funding. So that's a long way of saying I was aware of the work that the co-founders were doing, years before the building got built and the doors were open and we started filming. I had just finished another film when I realized that they were in the building, and then it was kind of the rubber meets the road, right? This is an incredible opportunity to capture this event, this startup company that is so ambitious on so many levels. I mean, nothing like this really had ever been done before. So it's a purpose-built building with that level of technology for hydroponic growing at this altitude, at this latitude, with this employment model. So even though I was really tired of making films, I was like, I need to make this film. So I went and talked to them and kind of got them to sign off on it. And I think it helped made 2 other films in the community. They felt they could trust me. So that's one part of your question. Remind me what the other parts were.
The other part was about questions of representation and how you chose to tell the story and how you chose your main subjects, mostly, obviously, the employees.
Right. So I came into making this film without much experience or exposure to community members with disabilities and their families and their support providers. So it was a pretty steep learning curve, but I will say I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. So I did reach out to advisors from the get-go. So people at every state has a University Center of Excellence in Developmental Disability. I reached out to ours in Wyoming, which is at the University of Wyoming, and Michelle Jarman, who teaches disability studies. was an advisor on the film. Marty Blair, who's at the University of Montana at the Rural Institute for Inclusive Communities. I reached out to a lot of different advocacy groups as well and tried to get, as many knowledgeable people to chime in on representations, language, way to interview people with intellectual and developmental disabilities that might be outside my normal scope of the work that I had done before. I've learned a tremendous amount. I still have a tremendous amount left to learn, but and I think it may, the film that I made, 3 years ago, when we started filming this, it would probably be a very different film if I did it today. Maybe different characters or different relationships I would focus on, but we chose to focus on the stories of 5 employees at Vertical Harvest, 5 employees with disabilities. And Vertical Harvest is about a 50-50 mix of people with and without disabilities.
All right. Paul, I'm really glad that you're with us tonight, and I want to ask you to tell us a little bit about what the Cotting School's vocational program is about, and some of the community-based volunteer work experience opportunities that you have available for your students.
Sure. Sure. Well, first of all, we're delighted to host again this year. Obviously, looks very different, but our 5th year hosting. For those unfamiliar, Cotting School is in Lexington. We're a Chapter 766 approved private special education school. Our students are ages 3 to 22, moderate to severe cognitive and physical disabilities. And they commute every day from over 70 different towns around Massachusetts. Just a quick shout out to the staff and families and students right now, all working really hard to stay connected. It's a big challenge, but I think you would be amazed to see what our teachers and therapists and everyone has come up with. It's pretty cool, and you can check it out at the top of our website. It's right there at the top on our banner, all of our at-home resources, and I'm happy to elaborate further if there's a question. But in terms of our vocational program, we have just about half of our student body. We're about 115 students, just about half involved in some sort of vocational training program, and it starts with in-house jobs. So that might be working with a staff member in our school supplies, or going around the school selling snacks, just working on the exchange of money and how transactions work, and communicating with customers, that sort of thing. But our students then transition as they get older into maybe spending one day in the community, and that could be at a TJ Maxx or Leahy Clinic Hospital or a hardware store, and the list goes on. But in the community for a couple of hours with a job coach, getting experience maybe with some clerical work or some custodial work, things like that at one of these locations. And then ultimately students, as they get to be closer to 22, are in the community twice a week, maybe at different places, so that they start to get a variety of vocational opportunity to see what they like and what they don't, and prepare them for independence as best possible as they approach 22, which is the Massachusetts sort of cutoff for education. So that's the overview there. We partner with 40 different sites. I mentioned a few of them, and we're really happy to say that most of our students get 10 different experiences, give or take, before they graduate.
That's amazing. No, Jen, how did you cast, so to speak, your your subjects, and do you know what they're, you followed them for the first 15 months of Vertical Harvest. Do you know what they're up to now? Are they still with the farm? Have they moved on? Sure. Micah, Johnny, Ty. I can't remember all of the names, the 5, but
that was pretty good. We probably covered had coverage of maybe 10 different employees, 8 to 10. And I had never done a documentary before that was sort of filmed in the moment versus retrospective, where I could choose my story and my characters through research. So I found it quite stressful. I don't know if, hopefully the people in the greenhouse didn't find it quite as stressful, but we just had to really stay on top of things. We didn't have the budget, or even if you have the budget, you shouldn't film every day. That just produces a lot of footage that eventually has to be gone through, and you have to comb for stories. So that's not really the way one should film. So we were trying to write our story, film simultaneously, and keep adjusting, moving back and forth between those, see what stories we're developing that had, characters that had a better arc or trajectory, dramatic things happening. And so some characters fell away. And it was apparent by the end who our main characters were. And what I like is not every character is introduced at the beginning. Sort of Kyle comes in a little bit later. We did that sort of with the seasons, and also because people came to the business at different times. So it kind of lent itself to that, which was nice. All of the five characters featured in the film are still working at Vertical Harvest. Johnny has been promoted to, I think, senior microgreen associate. He's still doing tours and working in market as well. And the great thing about doing the film is we've had the opportunity to screen at festivals. Before the pandemic, we were traveling to do live, performances, whatever, Q&As together. So Johnny and Kyle and Joelle all came to our world premiere at the Wild and Scenic Film Festival in 2019, and Johnny was just at the JCC Chicago Jewish Film Festival with us. Johnny was born in Chicago, and he's got a ton of family in Chicago. Kyle's been with us to festivals. Micah's been with us. It's created a feeling of family, I think, around that, which is really nice. So just back to where people are, Micah is continuing to do her art. She is still, I think when we left her at the end of the film, it said she was going to do more of her art, but it's actually changed a little bit. I think she's working more hours at Vertical Harvest. So, the world rolls on, things continue. That was our best guess at the moment. Kyle is doing more of the bookkeeping, and I think really enjoying that. And he also edits the newsletter. He really loves doing marketing. And Paul, I think that's why, your program and giving people real world experience in jobs is so important, because people get a chance to find out what they like and what they don't like and what they might want to try to get better at. And I think that's one of the great things about the corporate culture at Vertical Harvest is they're willing to let people try things, sort of the dignity of failing, right? I mean, not everyone will succeed in a task. And I think, that's something that we all hope we have, is the dignity to the opportunity to try something and fail.
Yeah. There's a question that came in from a viewer for you, Jen. One of the things it reads, one of the things I loved most about Vertical Harvest is that the employees are paid real wages. Sheltered workshops are still, unfortunately, a thing. I'm guessing there is higher demand than space. How do they make hiring decisions?
That is a great question. Since I'm not the business, I'm not sure if I can provide the complete answer to that. I do know they have a waiting list for employees. I mean, not every employee's trajectory is the same, and that's one of the things I think we saw them do. Our job reviews, periodic interviews with people. Like, do you see this as a stepping stone for something else? Would you like to be, do you see yourself retiring in this position? So really kind of checking in and see where people feel like this job is on their career trajectory. And I think this is something I've heard, and I believe it to some extent. Often when people talk about jobs for people with disabilities, it's often a job versus a career, right? And there's a distinction. We all have to start someplace, but a career to me is more of a path, right? Versus just one thing that you continue to do, even though you might have a skill set to do more or be capable of learning to do more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Paul, there's a question for you. Do the Cotting students tend to move into fair wage employment after graduation?
Yes, sometimes. We've had a few examples in the past couple of years of students building a relationship with as a volunteer worker while they're at Cotting school, and as they approach age 22, the relationship then transitions to a paid opportunity at that location. So we have a couple of years ago a student working at a Montessori school very close to Cotting, and she transitioned to being paid. We have a few other examples of that goes on. For some students, that is the goal, not for all of them, but for some of them, it is an opportunity to work, even if it's it's likely not full time. It's probably a couple days a week, a couple hours a day, something along those lines. But we feel for the right family and for the right student, that is a possibility. And it's one of the reasons why, well, two things. We look for partnerships with employers that are located closer to these students' homes. I mentioned 70 plus towns around Greater Boston. So we want to set the student up for success. So finding partner employers that are accessible to these students' towns, not just Lexington, is important. But it's also really important for our job coaches, like those you see in the film, to slowly back away as they get to age 22 to prepare for the day when they won't necessarily have a job coach at their side. So our job coaches have a really strategic way of being close when they need to, but then stepping back when appropriate.
Right.
Yeah, I love that quote in the film where Ty's dad is saying, your job is essentially to work yourself out of a job as the job coach. So, yeah.
Right.
Someone's asking Jen whether the employees enjoyed being on film. and they say that they really appreciated how the film showed so many different aspects of vertical harvest: the corporate side, the restaurant side, the human side.
Oh, that's nice. So you may guess that Micah truly enjoyed being filmed. She definitely has stars in her eyes. Johnny, I think, took a little while to get used to it, but he, we were there so much, and that I think eventually people forgot about us. Kyle wants to have his own internet cooking show, so he was psyched when I came over to film him in his kitchen. What else? Zach was just going to the rodeo, so he didn't care if we were along or not. I think most people just went with it. And
what about
Ty? Ty seemed to be fine with it. He didn't, I think, Ty, I developed quite a close relationship with his parents and Ty through this process. And one of the things that Ty's parents told me, we began to get opportunities through the film to present at disability specific conferences. And I wanted to do that when I could with people from the film, self-advocates or people with disabilities, maybe incorporate parents, whatever seemed appropriate. And Ty's parents had stopped going to disability conferences years ago because they never saw anyone like Ty present. It was always, like the top 1 percentile of people with disabilities who, in their opinion, were the presenters. So one thing that I felt really great about is that we got the opportunity to present with Ty. I reached out to an educator who has worked with folks who communicate in different ways, and we were able to let Ty use his words to describe photos and stuff about his life, and then we worded slightly longer sentences using a Siri voice, sort of collaborating with both him and his parents to come up with short sentences that were a little bit more informative and described things, and then he could trigger them as we presented. So Ty got paid an honorarium for presenting in front of an entire conference more than once, and and I think it changed his parents' perspectives on the inclusive nature of those conferences too, because I think everything evolves and changes over time. So the conferences of 15 years ago are not the disability advocacy group conferences that are happening today. So I don't remember what the question was, but that was my thing about Ty and presenting.
The question was, what about Ty?
Yeah, what about Ty? Yeah, and Ty actually does work full time. I think he works 30 to 35 hours a week, maybe more. I have to check, but yes.
Great. You did make, I think, a somewhat conscious decision to not talk about the various disabilities in very descriptive ways about the disabilities themselves, right?
Yeah, I thought, well, we all know that a diagnosis is only part of a story, right? And, we felt getting to know the character was the way to go. And nobody wants, like a lower third descriptor with your diagnosis. I mean, it's a mistake that I could have made, I think, coming in. I think that would have been a mistake. But, thankfully, the advisors that we had on board helped us navigate some of that. And also, not, kind of being a fly on the wall and just seeing scenes unfold, which, again, was not really a lot of what I had done before, this kind of, this style of documentary filmmaking. So that was also a new thing for me, where you're just kind of letting it unfold, and you're trying not, obviously you being there changes it. Being there with the camera changes it, but
sure.
We were trying to sort of change it as little as possible. So.
Right. But thanks to that, you were telling the story of someone working at Vertical Harvest, and the story of how they're working at Vertical Harvest, and instead of telling the story of an autistic person working at Vertical Harvest, and that I think that makes it a huge difference. So
right, I
enjoyed that.
I think if we move towards disability is simply a part of human experience, right? Versus it is this disqualifier, or it is less than, or that's what we want to be a part of.
Paul, did you you had a great question for Jen.
I did. If I can step in, there
are these questions flinging across the screen. Yeah,
we are getting great questions from folks tuning in across the globe. I imagine as a filmmaker, you're not looking to add at the end of your production. You're always looking to have to cut down for time. And I wonder if there's something that you had a difficult time cutting out, if there was a part of this story that, right at when you finished, that you wished you could have shared, and maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that tonight for us.
Yeah, well, I think there were a couple of things. One, Ty and his roommate Colin live in a townhouse in a integrated, area, and we saw some of the interaction with the neighbor. And you just really had the sense that Ty and Colin were part of that neighborhood and part of the
think we lost Jen for a second.
I think so. Yeah.
Cut out. See if we can get her back. All right. I don't know if Jen knows that she cut out.
Oh no.
but we're trying to let her know. So, Paul, it's you and me.
It's just you. I know. I wish I could answer. I wish I could answer her question for her. I don't know if there are other questions from.
Great. We have some great comments that I'm happy to bring up. There, people are saying it's such a wonderful film, and people are asking more about Thai, and people are asking this was inspired by the Danish model, which I have no idea if it was, and I don't know if Jen can speak to that. I don't know the answer to that question, sadly. I'm hoping that Jen can come back. I read somewhere that Jen explained the title. I don't know if did you have a chance to ask Jen about the title? Hearts of Glass?
No, I think when we first connected, I probably did ask her and knew, but I don't know if you want to elaborate on it. Please do.
She explains that the glass houses and the plants, but she explains it as breaking through the barriers of exclusion. It's sort of like breaking through the glass ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like this metaphor. That's how she came up with the title.
That's neat. I one of the obvious connection. I mean, we every year, working with ReelAbilities, we screen a couple of different films early in the fall and try to figure out what's going to be a good fit. We want to screen a film that parallels our mission in some way. And I think the obvious piece in this film with Cotting School, as I've talked about tonight, is the employment piece and employing folks with disabilities and such. And I'm seeing some other questions coming in now about, do we promote fair pay for persons with disabilities? I think that we try, not explicitly, it's not like our primary goal, but when we, I think we advocate for people with disabilities to their highest level of independence. That's in the classroom, that's outside the classroom. And obviously preparing students to get fair wage is a part of a whole scope of things. But like I said, there are a few students, not all of them, but there are a few that do go on and are paid when they graduate. So we're always hoping for more of those opportunities. For sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wanted to ask Jen about why she left Boston with all of her amazing talents and took them all the way out to Wyoming, because she is a Wellesley graduate.
I know, I don't speak for her, but
she started making films in Boston all the way back in the, I think, late 90s.
There was something about something with her husband. I know there was a decision, obviously, a couple of things that went into moving to Wyoming, but I've enjoyed reading about the area ever since I watched the film. It sounds like there's just some rich opportunities for stories there. And one of the things that I admired about her right away was her ability to know what she doesn't know and be open to telling. There's a lot of power in storytelling with film, and to do it right is you can't underestimate it. Right. So for her to take the time to really learn and connect with folks in the Jackson area to represent these young adults correctly, I think should be celebrated. I hope she continues to do more work. If we can't get her back tonight, I hope she can watch this and know that we just as someone who appreciates these kinds of films, we appreciate her.
Yeah, she has done amazing work, and this is a story, as she says, that she literally picked up from her backyard, and it really is quite amazing, and hopefully there are other initiatives that will replicate this model. It is literally a model that incorporates innovation and inclusion, and I these are things that are happening all around. Apparently, innovation and inclusion work well together these days. And I think on that note, Paul, I think we're going to have to give up on Jen coming back. I think Wyoming, unfortunately, has had a bad connection. They do have snow on the ground still, as Jen told us, and we have had some internet issues with her. But this was a great conversation, and we got a lot from Jen. We got most of the questions answered, so that's pretty great.
Good.
And
I imagine she seemed like she had a lot of fun with it when she was here. So
yes.
So I'm grateful to her.
Yes, and I want to thank you very much for being here tonight, and I want to thank Jennifer Tennican. And tomorrow night, I want to invite you all to tune in and watch Once Upon a Boy, an Israeli documentary by Uri Levy, a brilliant documentary, award-winning documentary, tomorrow night. We will not be having a Q&A, but please tune in for the documentary. And then we are back on Thursday night for our closing night with The Witch Hunters, followed by a Q&A with the film's director. Please be safe and take good care. Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Thanks, Katka.
Thank you.